Hello. It's a windy day here in Athens, Georgia. I'm outside active climbing and I'm gonna go head inside and we're gonna talk about the different kinds of holes that you might find on a wall when you go climbing. We're gonna start off with perhaps the easiest hole. This is what you're likely gonna find on the beginner climbs, the V0s, V1s, the ones you start doing. This hold is called the jug. And it's good to get your hands really in there. It's a very strong, comfortable hold. There isn't really much chance of slipping on this one. It's awesome to get started, and it's awesome for big dynamic movements because it gives you a lot of area to land on, and yeah, you feel really comfortable with this one. I'm starting off with this nice and easy warm-up using primarily jugs, and you can see how I can really get my hands in there, make big movements, and I really feel secure all the way up. My feet are finding good positions as well. There's plenty of surface area to get good feet with jugs. I also did this pink V1 during my warm-up. It starts with a nice big jug, and the next few holds are quite interesting. I wasn't able to find the official name, nor anyone I talked to at the gym were able to give me a official name for these two holds you can see right here. But they're as if you just scooped up the bottom of a jug, and you can wrap your fingers completely inside and get a really strong grip, which was important here as I tried traversing over, getting around that big annoying red hold, which will come into play later. Here is another climb with jugs, and this time there's a big yellow one up top. So I start down low, work my way up. Fairly standard movements up until here. You can see that I have good hands all the way up, and then I get to this big long jug that I had to work my way up. It's very interesting to traverse. I get a foot up pretty high. The nice thing about this hold is that it allows you to position your hands pretty much wherever you want to. And once I top out, I just climb down. I didn't try traversing down the way I came up, but that hold is interesting, and I've seen it used on quite complex problems. This one wasn't that bad. I believe it was a V2, V3. Next up, the bane of my existence, slopers. They are awful when you're climbing any sort of incline, which is coincidentally my favorite type of wall to climb because they give you very little area to get good traction. Your hand slides off very easily, as I show here. This orange climb also had crimps. These are almost mini jugs where you can't really get more than the first pad of your fingers, as I show here, into the indentation behind the crimp. They are better to grip than slopers on inclined walls, but they aren't as secure as jugs. You do have to be careful with placement with these ones. The orange climb was nice because it allowed me to show both the slopers and the crimps, and the jugs, because I start with two hands on a jug and another jug for the second hold. I go over to the sloper, and you can see that I don't really put too much weight on that. I get my crimp in there, and yeah, I go move up to the jug above that and top out fairly easily. But it was a cool climb because it allowed me to use 3 different types of holds on something that wasn't too complex. I believe it was a V1. As you start climbing harder problems, you'll notice different holds used in different places, and that'll get you to start thinking about how to position your body and how to solve the problem. While we're talking about crimps, here is the pinch. I wasn't able to find this on an actual problem, but the pinch works very similarly to the crimp, except you're able to get your thumb on the other side. Typically you'll find these sideways, whereas the crimps will be long ways. Just so you guys can see exactly what I'm complaining about when it comes to slopers, here is a V3 yellow that I call the starfish because it gets your body in a really awkward position. You can see that my center of mass is way over, almost tipping over where my feet are placed. That hold is not great either. I would really trust these slopers, which I have a hard time doing. I get my foot onto the volume, and again, having to trust that sloper, it is awful. I am able to get this fairly decent foothold, but then I have to kind of jack myself up by applying counter pressure between my right hand and my left foot. Once I get up there though, it's not a bad top out, but slopers are hard to trust on any sort of incline. That being said, slopers are one of the lowest impact on your tendons and fingers. Jugs and crimps especially if you're full crimping, those can be high impact on your tendons. Speaking of high impact to the tendons, we come to our next type of hold. This is a pocket. As you can see, it goes inside. It is like a excavated jug, and you really have to bury your hands in there for these ones. It can be quite rough on your fingers, so you have to be careful that you're not applying too much pressure. Here I start with a couple jugs, I reach up, and you see another one of those, what I call banana holds. But my right hand right now, and there it goes, my right hand had its fingers inside of that pocket. It's very, very secure, but it is taxing on your fingers. And if you fall, you have to be very careful to be able to remove them. This pocket isn't that terrible. There are pockets that are much more narrow that you can't get your entire hand in, that restrict your access to just a few fingers. This red V2, V3 is exactly what I was talking about. You can barely get 2 fingers in there. It was quite a difficult climb, and moreover, it stresses out your fingers quite substantially. However, the good thing is, if you ever need some chalk, just stick your finger in there. There's always bound to be lots of chalk in one of these narrow pockets. Anyway, let's grab some popcorn and watch Rathan struggle on this terrible red problem. I backtracked back there because I wasn't really supposed to get my feet up that high until I bumped my right hand. Up until now, it's honestly fine. However, you must realize that every single one of these pockets are really stressing out my fingers. I'm this close to falling off most of the time, but I do fine. I get up my left hand that far, and this was the hardest move for me of the entire climb. Getting my foot over there because you can't see it underneath that purple hold. And it is unfortunately off screen, my top out, but it was quite cool. It felt cool. It was my first ascent, so I really enjoyed it. I don't particularly like pockets because of the amount of stress that they exert on your tendons, but they are fun once in a while. The last type of hold that I'm covering in this video is the undercling, and you might think, hey, that looks sort of like a jug, and it is, except it's turned 180 degrees when you start from the bottom and try to work your way up on the S-wall. It's really important to get some really nice internal pull, and that's where the undercling comes in. It is awesome to leverage off of. It's a little difficult to use, and I personally never completed a climb with an undercling. Here I'm starting this yellow. I'm trying to use it, but I gotta include my failures because, yeah, I did not get that climb. Maybe next time. Speaking of the S-wall, here's a bonus. Here are all the different terrains you'll find at the gym. Beginning with the S-wall, which I just showed, it has pretty heavy incline. It is intense. This is the spray wall. It's also inclined, but it has a lot of different holds. Cool for different problems. This is the cave. That's right, like the Bat Cave. Finally, slab. Slab is the opposite of an incline. There's my brother trying something. And to top off this video, how about a climb where I use no hands? That's right, on slab, you can sometimes balance yourself in ways where no hands are necessary. Some of my favorite climbs are on slab because they're so technical, they involve so much balance, and yeah, you have to work beyond your strength. So that's my video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. We learned about all the different kinds of holds and the different kinds of terrain on the wall, and I hope this helps for your next problem.